Oh, hello, this is Tak Chung from Walk with Tak. Welcome to my YouTube channel. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and share. Please feel free to write me at walkwithtak@gmail.com if you have any question regarding this video or any other video that I have posted in the past. It is easier for me to answer you through email. If you have any comments, suggestions regarding this channel, I'm looking forward to hear from you. This dish is a good example that you cook everything in the wok. The salmon and the 4 different vegetables, which is bok choy, fresh shiitake mushroom, purple cabbage, and cherry tomatoes. There's some beauty about cooking everything in a single wok. Like my friend Eugene always said, the best cooking is to all in a single pan or a wok. If you enjoy salmon, like as my wife does, this is probably the best way to prep the salmon. So you will have salmon anytime you want. I usually use a salmon that has fresh, never been frozen, and I cut them into small pieces, and then I store them in the amount that I want to use for a particular meal. I put them in a Ziploc sandwich bag. The salmon retain excellent quality using this method. I then prep and freeze them in a single layer. This will provide maximum surface area when I'm ready to thaw them out. I can thaw them out in a bowl of lukewarm water in about 10 to 15 minutes. This allows us to have salmon anytime we want. I cook this dish in my Cuisinart 14-inch stainless steel wok. The first is that I spot season the wok using my spot seasoning method to create a non-stick cook surface. And then I lay the salmon with the skin side down on the surface of wok. This method is frequently known as shallow frying. The reason I put the skin side down because I want to create a charring of the skin. Now most people do not eat salmon skin, they tend to be fatty. But if you fry it in such a way to give it a charring, just like a blackened type of cooking approach, it will give the skin a wonderful texture. It has that crispiness that almost like probably the best part of the salmon. To create a nice charring, the wok has to be very hot. And in this case, this Cuisinart 14-inch stainless wok does a very good job. And with the spot seasoning method that I have performed, the salmon will not burn and stick to the bottom surface of the wok, which is very important. And this method has many advantages. First and foremost is that by cutting the salmon into small pieces, they cook much faster, and they will not affect the quality of the salmon in comparison when you cook it into an entire piece. In fact, when you cook them into smaller pieces, you have much better control of the texture of the salmon. When you cook it in a big piece, the thick part sometimes will be undercooked, whereas the thinner part of the salmon will be overcooked. Because the pieces of the salmon are very thin, so they cook very rapidly, and it usually takes less than 90 seconds. You can tell when you look at it, you flip the salmon over, you will find that backside of the salmon now is nicely charred, create that blackened characteristics. Before I use this method to cook the salmon, we usually do not eat the skin of the salmon because it tends to be too oily. However, this method provides a very different texture to the skin of the salmon. In fact, the oil from the skin actually has been driven out into the wok. As you can see, the wok actually now has more oil than I start with. And okay, in less than 2 minutes, the salmon is done. I pick up the salmon and set them aside. Now I'm going to cook the vegetable. I'm going to use the oil that left in the wok to cook the vegetable. This oil contains omega-3 fatty acid coming from the salmon, which is highly nutritional. So the next step, what I do is that I am going to cook about 5 cups of baby bok choy, which I have cut up previously. The baby bok choy has excellent shelf life. They usually last about a week to 10 days. But this baby bok choy has been in the refrigerator for about 2 weeks. They are slightly on the old side, but when it comes to baby bok choy, it really does not make that much difference because when you cook it, you will still able to extract the flavor from the baby bok choy. Here I want you to notice that the initial volume of the baby bok choy is very large because they contain a lot of water. It fills up the wok quite a bit, and this is why it is good to have a larger wok. If one uses a smaller wok, such as a 12-inch wok, the space of the wok will be overwhelmed by the baby bok choy. I switched to a wok spatula to stir-fry the baby bok choy, which is far more efficient. And next, I'm going to add about 2 cups of fresh shiitake mushroom. And most people are familiar with shiitake mushroom that is come from the dry form, which you have to hydrate it. But fresh shiitake mushroom has a very different flavor and texture in comparison to the dry mushroom. I mean, they both are wonderful mushroom, but the fresh shiitake mushroom have that extra layer of freshness, and the texture is truly amazing. And if you never have them before, you should give it a try. And you will find fresh shiitake mushroom in many Asian grocery stores. At this point, most of the oil has been taken up both by the baby bok choy and the shiitake mushroom. The baby bok choy and the shiitake mushroom are the main ingredients, but I also going to add about 1 cup of purple cabbage. I call the purple cabbage as the supplementary or secondary vegetable ingredients. It is added to provide color as the main reason, but it also will provide a distinct texture to the dish as well. You notice that I use different order to add different vegetables. They depend on how long I want to cook each of the ingredients. The vegetable that I added first, I intend to cook them longer because their texture. And I want the baby bok choy to cook have a more softer texture, whereas the purple cabbage, I want to have it retain its crispy texture, and this is the reason I have different order in adding them to the wok. I carefully monitor the cooking process. I always want to have a thin layer of oil at the bottom of the wok. I'll add some more if they look dry, because this will prevent the food from getting burned. By adding the ingredients at different time, by changing the order how you add those ingredients during the stir-frying process, you can change the characteristics of a dish. Of course, by affecting the different ratio of the ingredients will also lead to a different culinary experience. So there are many places that you can make adjustments to create an interesting outcome or a creative outcome of your dish that you might not have experienced before. And this is where flavor chasing come in. Ingredients play an important role in stir-frying in contributing to the flavor of the dish. The reason is simple, because in stir-frying, you do not cook the ingredients extensively, so you do not blend all the flavor of the ingredients together. And by cooking in such a way, you are able to maintain their individual characteristics, and this leads to a much more satisfying culinary experience. And of course, it also makes the dish far more interesting if you cook everything to the same level of texture. The last but not the least, I'm going to add some cherry tomatoes to the dish. Again, the cherry tomatoes serve as a secondary or complementary ingredients. In this case, the cherry tomatoes will provide a nicer color presentation to the dish. But furthermore, the cherry tomatoes will also add interesting texture because now when you eat this dish, you will have many different characteristics provided by different food ingredients in terms of their texture and their flavor. As I have mentioned earlier, it is important to have a larger wok. As you can see here, the baby bok choy has cooked down to about 1/3 of its original volume. I seasoned the dish with about 1 tablespoon of oyster sauce, as well as about 1 teaspoon of my basic seasoning mix. This seasoning mix is to add umami flavor to the dish, which will enhance the natural flavor of the ingredients rather than overwhelm them with a heavier sauce. And my Wok with Tak basic seasoning mix is now available on Amazon, and I have put a link below if you would like to give it a try. Now, the total cook time of this dish is only about 8 minutes, this including cooking the salmon as well as the vegetables. Now, you notice that I cooked the salmon and the vegetables separately, and I call this method combinatory stir-frying. By using this method, I can maintain the individual texture of the salmon as well as the vegetables. So at the end, when I combine them together, when you have the salmon and the vegetables, you will experience the contrasting flavor of these food ingredients. The vegetable has a nice soft texture, whereas the salmon has a crispy texture and make the dish far more interesting. I could have served them separately, but by combining together, the salmon will pick up the sauce from the vegetable dish. Again, this will make the vegetable dish more interesting and delightful. This is a good example, what I would call a one-wok meal. In a single wok, you can create a dish with 5 different ingredients combined together. It is a dish with great flavor and great nutritional value. Again, this is the beauty of home cooking as well as the fast cooking system, because nobody can cook this dish for you no matter where you go. And in this case, I selected ingredients in such a way because this is how I would like my dish to be. And it turns to be a wonderful dish, and my wife and I enjoyed it very much. It is very rewarding to create something unique that only you can do. I post a video each day to help you to make home cooking as part of your daily routine using my fast cooking system, which will make home cooking practical, efficient, creative, and fun. If you'd like to learn more about this cooking system, please subscribe to this YouTube channel. So keep on cooking. I will see you tomorrow.